The gardens of the Celestial Spire were a masterpiece of tranquil engineering, a place where light itself was persuaded to bend into soft, melancholic hues, and the air carried the scent of calming pheromones. It was here, amidst the shimmering pools and crystalline flora, that the princess of the vast Valerian consensus was meant to find peace. She was a creature of exquisite delicacy, her skin a mosaic of subtle, shifting pearl, her large eyes the color of twilight. She was also, as her attendants often lamented, a nervous entity. The weight of her lineage felt like a physical pressure, and the formalities of the court were a constant source of quiet anguish. Her current anguish had a name, and it was not a Valerian one. It was human. As part of a broad cultural and military exchange, the consensus had welcomed a delegation from the Soul Compact. Among them was a warrior, a specimen of a species still considered raw and violently young by the galaxy's elder races. He stood now, a short distance away, a silent sentinel during her walk. He was not like the Valerian guards, whose forms were slender and whose movements were liquid grace. He was density and potential energy. His frame, encased in a simple dark uniform, spoke of a world with a heavier grip. His face was not placid, but held a watchful alertness that she found utterly distracting. They called him the Human. She had heard his designation, a short, blunt sound. But in her mind, he was simply that, the Human. The princess tried to focus on the luminous petals of a sighing bloom, a flower that reacted to serene thought. It remained stubbornly closed. Her own thoughts were a skittish flock, constantly circling back to the solid, quiet presence at the edge of the garden. She chanced a glance. He was looking not at the beauty of the spire, but at the approaches, the shadows, the data stream flickering in the lens over his eye. His posture was not the relaxed elegance of her guards, but a balanced readiness, as if the ground might shift at any moment. It should have seemed brutish. Instead, it felt intensely real. Her own heart, a fragile bell of crystal and bioluminescence, began to chime a little faster. A soft, flustered glow emanated from her cheeks, a telltale sign of her distress. The head attendant noticed. "Your serenity," he whispered, his voice a harmonic breeze. "Shall we withdraw? The human's demeanor is disruptive to the garden's harmonics." "No," she said, the word surprising her with its firmness. "It is the purpose of the exchange. To understand." Understanding, however, seemed a distant prospect. Days turned into cycles. The human warrior was often nearby, a shadow that drew her light. During a state banquet, she observed him. While Valerian nobles conversed through subtle chemical cues and subharmonic songs, the human stood still. He did not partake of the delicate flavor spheres, only drank water. His eyes tracked the room, the servants, the entrances. A visiting ambassador, a hulking Gorthan, made a loud, jesting comment about human fragility. The human's expression did not change, but the princess saw a minute shift in his stance, a settling of weight. The Gorthan, perceptive in its own way, quickly changed the subject. Later, she asked her tutor about human combat. The holographic records showed a terrifying, beautiful chaos. They were not stronger than many species, nor faster, but they were relentless. They fought injured, fought exhausted, used terrain and illusion, and shocking, direct violence. A human, the record stated, did not believe a fight was over until they or their opponent could not continue. The concept was horrifying. And yet, as she watched the human warrior move through the halls with that quiet, purposeful stride, she found it not horrifying, but secure. The incident occurred during a diplomatic tour of the Spire's orbital docks. The princess, surrounded by her retinue, was explaining the grace of Valerian light sail engineering to a group of visiting scholars. The human warrior was, as usual, a few paces behind, his presence a quiet anchor in the bustle, It happened with no warning. A cargo module, its anti-grav motivators failing with a sharp scream of shearing metal, broke from its moorings overhead. It was a massive thing, a blunt projectile of plasteel and composite. A collective shriek of alarm went up. The Valerian guards reacted with perfect, protocol-driven speed, moving to form a protective barrier around her, their energy shields flickering to life. The human did not form a barrier. He moved. He did not cry out. He simply calculated the trajectory in a split-second glance, took 3 bounding steps, and placed himself not directly in front of the princess, but at an angle. As the module crashed down, it first struck a gantry, which spun it sideways. It was that spinning mass that the human met. He did not try to catch it, an impossibility. He struck it, with his shoulder and all the coiled strength of his body. At a precise point, altering its path just enough, the module slammed into the deck with a deafening crash, missing the main group by a full meter. Shrapnel and debris peppered the area. The human was thrown back by the impact, rolling across the deck to lie still. Silence, then chaos. The princess stood, unharmed, her guard shields now humming around her uselessly. All she could see was the human, lying on the cold deck. A feeling she had never known, cold and sharp, stabbed through her. It overrode all shyness, all protocol. She was moving before her attendants could stop her, slipping between her guards, her diaphanous robes trailing. She knelt beside him, heedless of the grime. Close up, he seemed even more solid, but frighteningly still. A line of red traced a path from his temple. His uniform was torn at the shoulder. Then he groaned. His eyes flickered open, focusing on her face above him. He immediately tried to sit up. "Do not move," she said, her voice trembling but clear. One of her hands hovered over his injured arm. Her natural bioluminescence, pulsing with anxious, healing light, though she knew it had little effect on his alien biology. "I am fine." "Your serenity," he said, his voice a low rasp. He winced as he pushed himself to one elbow. "The module. Is everyone?" "You diverted it," she whispered, her large twilight eyes wide. "You did not get behind a shield. You attacked it." He blinked, as if the statement confused him. The shields were not rated for that mass. Changing its vector was the only way to ensure your safety. He said it plainly, a simple statement of tactical fact to her. It was the most illogical, breathtaking thing she had ever witnessed. He had assessed, chosen, and acted in a heartbeat, using his own body as a tool, accepting the cost. The shyness that usually gripped her around him was burned away in the heat of that realization. "You are hurt," she insisted, her glow intensifying. A medical team arrived, bustling her gently aside. As they tended to him, she stood her ground, watching. He refused a stretcher, rising to his feet with a stubborn grimace. His eyes found hers again, and he gave a short, slight nod. It was not a courtier's bow. It was an acknowledgement between two beings who had just shared a moment of extreme danger. From that moment, something shifted. The princess found her nervousness had transformed. It was no longer the anxiety of uncertainty, but the thrilling, terrifying buzz of comprehension. She began to seek him out, not as a passive observer, but with a newfound, quiet determination. She asked him questions. Simple ones at first, about his homeworld sky, its oceans. His answers were short, descriptive, devoid of poetic flourish, yet they painted vivid pictures of vast, wild places. She learned he came from a world of mountains and deep forests, where silence was a thing to be listened to, not engineered. One afternoon, in a secluded viewing gallery, she watched a starscape. He stood at his post by the door. The silence between them was no longer empty, but full. "Why did you become a warrior?" she asked, her back to him, watching a nebula drift. He was quiet for a long moment. To protect, he said finally. My people? We are small in the grand scale. We are not the strongest, the fastest, the most advanced. So we must be the most determined. We protect what is ours. It is the first lesson. She turned to look at him. And is that what you are doing here? Protecting? Yes, he said, meeting her gaze. His eyes held no guile, only a steady certainty. I am. The princess felt that familiar flustered glow begin at her cheeks, but she did not look away. The feeling was not panic now. It was something else, something warm and solid, like a stone in a stream, changing the flow of everything around it. She understood his calmness was not an absence of feeling, but a channeling of it. His strength was not for domination, but for a purpose so ingrained, it was as natural as breathing. The shy alien princess found, to her astonishment, that she was calm. The constant hum of her anxieties had quieted, replaced by the resonant, steady frequency of his presence. He was a warrior, a human, a creature of a different making. And in his steadfast, quiet way, he had not violated her peace, but had fought for it, and in doing so, given her a new kind of peace, one that felt not fragile, but earned. She offered him a smile, a small, genuine gesture that lit her features. He did not smile in return, but the slight, acknowledging tilt of his head was all she needed. For the first time, the garden felt truly serene.